What sort of 5-year-old were you? How did you get on with your mother? What was your father like? What was it like at school? When did you first have sex? The chair.
I'm definitely a control freak. I think that it's something that I'm still working with. It has its benefits, but also has its disadvantages. It means I get stressed or get angry if I can't control something sometimes, and I have to just learn to let go of it and trust in the process of life a little more.
What was your father like?
Well, my father, he's a building contractor, one of, I think, 10 or 11 kids, Catholic family, good moral person, a builder, so creative person, attention to detail, good-hearted, generous kind of person, good fun, enjoys himself, that sort of person. My mother, very practical, education advisor, was a teacher, quite authoritative, but self-disciplined, strong. What else would I say about her? Very organized. If there was some sort of crisis in the family, she'd make sure that the place looked smart and that the table was laid and everything, and then somehow everything was going to be okay.
If you felt sad or lonely or unhappy, do you think that was dealt with? Was that responded to?
Yeah, sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. I mean, I suppose in one sense I'm sort of secretive and I don't necessarily share my feelings with other people. So I wouldn't always, even with her, I try and work it out best I can myself, which is, something that I still do.
So was it quite a disciplined upbringing? Teachers are often very sort of, they're concerned with thoughts and conveying knowledge, if you like.
Yeah.
And don't necessarily respond so much to the emotional side.
It could be true. I don't know, actually, is the truth. I'm not in a position to be able to say. I mean, I'm in the eye of the storm.
You went to your Catholic school, which you've spoken many times about how vile you thought it was.
Well, I'm not really a fan of religion generally. I see it as man's way of controlling other men. But I believe in God, but I don't believe in religion because I don't personally think God would have anything to do with religions. But I didn't like the Catholic upbringing because of the guilt, the insidious kind of way that guilt was installed in things as a manipulation mechanism.
Was it important to your parents?
Oh,
Catholicism?
yeah, that's right.
Is that a real bone of contention between you as a child?
Yeah, I mean, we can joke about it now. I can, make jokes about the Pope or something, and they'll say, hey, cut that out, something like that. But at the same time,
when you're kind of 12 or 13,
yeah, you must take it more seriously. I think all good Catholics feel it's their duty because they've got this piece of software that says anyone who doesn't believe goes to get burned by a little man with a pitchfork.
So can you tell us just a little bit of what that involves?
Well, how they would do it at our school is they would
in your home.
At my home. Well, they would say talk about the priests as good men. They're all good people, and if only you could be as good as them, those kind of things.
How would you be disciplined if you did do something wrong? Can you think of an example?
Just trying to think. Yeah, well, I suppose when I was really young, smacked, but when I was...
They could be quite frightening.
Yeah, I suppose. When you're a little kid, you don't want to even be told that you're a bad person. because you know, the emotional upset is quite a lot. You know, and I only know that now from working with other people, and the work I've done on myself. That yes, it is a big deal. That things that are said to the little kid have a lot of power. They have the power of a hypnotic suggestion. I remember at school they used to tell us, even if you think about doing something wrong, it's as bad as actually doing it. And
did your parents say that as well?
no. They weren't that screwed up, you know. They weren't, you know, as they were at the school, you know. And so I would say, I remember for a week then thinking, God, I can't even think about bad things now. I'm going to go to hell.
What went wrong with your academic career?
Yeah, well, basically, because school is so boring, isn't it? I mean, you know, we would have somebody would come in, a teacher would come in, sit down, somebody who basically couldn't survive in the real world, so they end up bossing a load of little kids about, and would say, you know, would try and then dump their ideology in your head. Or they would, say, copy out of these awful tatty books from the 1950s with these shitty little black and white pictures in them. Whereas...
they really got to you, these people, didn't they? You really do still feel that hatred.
Well, no, it's more of a global thing now. I look at it now. You know, I look at it recently and I
Does
thought...
it globalise out to authority in general?
Authority in general, yeah, that's right.
Your hostility to the religion at school may be, to some extent, also to do with, you know, feelings about your parents.
Could be, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could see it as, you know, they sent me there, you know. In fact, they believed, as, you know, as I'm sure all parents do.
I'm sure they're acting in good faith.
That's right,
you know.
yeah. They were well-intentioned
Sure.
about it, you know, and they'd heard that it was a great school. I mean, I think subsequently...
But they believed you were going to say, I mean, but nonetheless, your feelings about religion, and therefore your which is code for your feelings about an aspect of your parents.
Yes, I'm sure you're right.
You said earlier that you're quite preoccupied with control, and how it is that in later life you have actually devoted yourself really to trying to, you know, develop ways of using your mind to make sure that you're not being controlled, and it could be said to controlling other people, only in a wonderfully benign way. I mean, anybody can see just looking at you how benign you are. But does that make sense?
Well, it does. I mean, I think you're right that essentially, you know, I've asked myself this several times, you know, about I'm in a job where essentially I'm controlling people, or it appears as though I am. I mean, I would argue that I don't.
Sure.
But essentially, I facilitate certain things to happen. And even when I help people in therapeutic work that I do, I'm not really controlling them. I'm giving them back control, or giving them more choices, actually.
But, you know, as a child, there was an awful lot of attempts to try and control your thoughts.
Oh,
it seems.
definitely, yeah, that's right.
And controlling other people's thoughts in a superficial reading of what you do is what...
Oh, definitely. I suppose when people say, oh, you know, you hypnotists, you're all about controlling people and, you know, misusing, you know, their minds, you're meddling with the mind. Well, you know, what I'd like to say to people is, look at the real mind manipulators. Politicians, cult leaders, religious leaders, advertisers. You know, these are the people that are subtly manipulating our minds for their own ends, using the strengths and weaknesses of language, using the power of the media to influence people.
When did you come into puberty?
Must have been 11 or 12, I would say.
And when did you have your first sexual experience, roughly?
Oh, let's have a think.
What happened? I mean, what can you
Must have
remember
been
your
about
first...
18.
Really?
Yeah.
And so, and what was going on in the period in between?
Was it 18 or was it 17?
There was a lot of, obviously, quite a lot of masturbation, presumably. Or not? Or were you actually not at all?
Oh, well, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
And interested in girls, but not getting anywhere, sort of thing.
Sorry, I just thought I was just I've not been asked that question before. You know, usually when I do a talk show, you know, Richard and Judy don't ask me that one.
But I mean, that's what one tends to do if one isn't getting sex, or indeed if one is getting sex, quite a lot.
Yeah. I never felt particularly good about myself, And I mean, this wasn't something I understood until, till later on, or I would feel guilty after sex. I would think, well, why? Hang on. And then I've suddenly remembered I got brainwashed early on in life into thinking that you had to be married to have sex. So I removed that hypnotic suggestion.
But when you were kind of 16 and at a party, did you feel too low self-esteem to actually go up to girls and chat them up and try and get off with them? Or what happened if you tried to
No, I would do that, yeah. No, I mean, I wasn't Mr. Bean, but
you didn't get off with them?
Yeah, no, I would get off with them, but I'd be like trying to hold it all together all the time.
You felt pretty uncomfortable with it?
Yeah, I'd feel a sense of a mixture of guilt, excitement, and joy, exploration, but at the same time I'd be thinking, well, hang on, am I doing this right? There's so many other things I don't do right. I'm probably not doing this one right. There'd be that little voice nagging away saying, she's going to think you're terrible.
There's a fear of inadequacy.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. Fear of inadequacy, yeah.
And what happened when you finally did have intercourse the first time? I mean, was it actually okay, in fact?
Yeah, I mean, it was partly enjoyable, but it was also, again, that same sort of thing, am I good enough? I had nothing to compare it against. And, I do judge myself quite harshly, even now, actually. It's something I'm still working on. Much better than I used to be. I was very self-critical years ago. But it was that, and also, well, a bit of guilt in there, and quite a lot of alcohol, I seem to remember as well. I did get quite depressed in my early 20s, and was a number of things that weren't going very well. I was really unhappy where I was at work. I mean, actually, I probably didn't have that much to be unhappy about, but I'd represented
You were DJ at Chiltern Radio at that time,
yeah,
was it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah, a morning DJ, early morning, so I was getting up really early, and I wasn't the most disciplined at getting to sleep, so I was tired a lot of the time, used to get unwell. This girl had just dumped me. My pride was hurt. I was really pissed off with my job. I'm just trying to think what else there was. There was a whole ton of other stuff going on. Yeah, I remember feeling very out of control at the effect of life. I didn't feel like anything was going my way. And I had no idea about how to control my feelings in those days.
And so in a sense you were in quite a desperate situation, and therefore very ripe, if you like, for a conversion to a religion. But instead of being converted to a religion which is mystical, if you like, you in fact found something fairly practical.
Well, yes, I mean, I would say that what I found is not a religion, really. Hypnosis is...
Not at all, no.
It's a set of psychological tools. There's no dogma in it. It's not thou shalt believe. I mean, there's certainly people who try to turn it into that.
No, it's based on scientific evidence.
Yeah. So,
But you see what I'm saying is that, nonetheless, you were in a state where you were searching for something.
Oh, I see what you mean, yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, perhaps I wouldn't have been driven to take such an interest in it was I not so keen now to find out about the workings of my mind. I interviewed a local hypnotherapist, and he hypnotized me for the piece, and I noticed how relaxed I felt and quite euphoric afterwards. I thought, ooh, this is good. And also the amazing amount of sensory distortions. It felt like I was miles away, or that I was floating, all these kind of nice sensations. And I thought, this is what I've been looking for a while. So I borrowed some books from him, and I began practicing on people, on friends of mine. And I'd get them to do silly things at first, I remember giving one of my friends a bottle of washing up liquid once and telling him, it was a valuable antique, and he woke up and said, "Have you seen this vase? It's been in my family for 2 centuries, And I fell about laughing, and he didn't. He sat completely straight-faced. I thought, God, it really worked. And then I started...
It must be the feeling of control, of course, as well.
Well, it was at first, yeah. And then you find the boundaries with this. And then I was interested to see if I could help people stop smoking and lose weight and pass their exams. And it consistently worked. I mean, it didn't work every time, but nearly every time.
So first of all, you were, should we say, feeling depressed and low and looking for something to control your own life and the problems you were having. And then it subsequently became apparent to you it was something with which you could help other people to do the same.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought, God, if I can, do this for myself, what could I do for Fred who's taking his exam? Or, invariably people would ask me. Or I'd go to a party, and people would say, go on, you can't hypnotize me. Go on, I challenge you, which would, in those days, close your eyes, do as you're told, and it would be a thrill.
I don't know much about it, but I imagine hypnotism is very good for certain kinds of things, like practical things like giving up smoking, improving your self-esteem, etc. But if you're, say, in your case, for example, if you basically felt that, you had a big nose, that you were puny, that you weren't an attractive person, you're not going to be able to actually change that fundamental feeling in your guts.
Yeah, of course
you can. But you can change the thoughts.
No, you can change the feeling.
Really?
All the feelings are related to the thoughts anyway. Essentially, the way I view it is, and the evidence seems to suggest, you can change somebody's feelings almost instantaneously
through thoughts.
Through thoughts, yeah. I mean, essentially,
thoughts control feelings. Then.
Well, feelings can happen first. It depends. But essentially, the way I believe it works is that the state or the mood or the feelings, if you like, are created through the pictures in our mind, and the way we paint them, and the words that we use inside our heads, and also our physiology. I mean, if you're really tense like this, you're going to create certain tense feelings in the body, whereas you smile, you're releasing a different set of chemicals.
But the fundamental patterns of behaviour of that kind are surely set by a kind of combination of childhood experience.
Well, everyone
and
used to
genes.
think so, but no, I mean, I'm finding constantly to the contrary. You just go back and alter it.
I mean, the fundamental pattern was caused by those things, but do you not agree? But then the question is what you can do whether to change them. Yes, you can go back and alter it or not. That's the question.
Yes, the fundamental patterns are definitely, I believe, formed in the first 6 years of life, and the experiences of emotional intensity shape the, as Piaget said, give me the boy before he's 7, I give you the man, definitely. And I think that...
But through hypnotism you can actually remember these things and then change them.
Well, you don't have to remember them. I find that often, sending somebody back into a vivid memory of something unpleasant is torture. I mean, occasionally you need to go there, but I always disassociate them, and I can't think of a time I haven't recently, and turn the pain down. But what I often do is...
So you get them to relive it and say, but this time it's not so bad.
No, what I get them to do is to disassociate from it and create, if say...
So that's happening to someone else?
No, say it's happening on a TV screen in black and white way over there. Get them to go over, step into the screen and comfort the younger them and give them the reassurance that they needed at that age to say to the little person, hey, look, you survived this. It's all going to be okay. You're not bad. You're not shameful. You're not wicked. You're not, whatever. You're not inadequate. You're going to grow up to be okay. It's just at the time, all the people around you or the situation demanded that, that things happened in this way.
So you changed the experience that they had almost.
You change the self-image, the blueprint in the unconscious, yeah.
You do this with yourself?
Yeah, frequently.
Can I ask you something that's probably quite painful for you, but your relationship with your girlfriend split up quite recently. Was that something you were able to deal with in this way then, that you can sort of work on yourself when something like that happens?
Well, I think that might have been part of the problem, actually. I think for a long while what happened was I became quite mechanical about things. I became obsessed with mind control and not necessarily with my heart. When we first got together, I'd try and cheer her up, if she got upset using a particular technique, but she's wise to that now. So, I have to be, let down all the defenses and be very open and straightforward in my communication because, she knows all the tricks, so won't work on her.
Because that could be a problem if it became a sort of way of controlling people, in relationships, because obviously...
People have that image. They think that, for a long while, people thought that I just snapped my fingers and she'd do the eye, and this sort of thing. Now, in theory, you could do that sort of thing. You could, there was a hypnotist I heard about who did that with his wife. He used to say, the ring, and he'd twist his ring and she would then follow his instructions. But I'm not sure if I would want a relationship that, I know a lot of people are thinking, yes, I'd...
Babes.
That's right, do as you're told, but you'd have to be a pretty sad person to want to control the world like that.